Hi. So this is, I think, a fifth video of my videos about the mind, the human mind, the human consciousness. And now we come to something that really opened my eyes even more. Like I was talking about one part of what opened my eyes and should open yours about constructivism, about everyone having their own inner world, and everyone's world is as valid as everyone else's world. Like even people we disagree on, they have a right to their own world. There's no wrong world there, actually. And this is very hard to accept for a lot of people. A lot of people say, no, my way is right and there is no other way. Yeah, well, there might be. I don't want to, you don't have to believe me. You don't even have to let other people have their own world. It's fine. I don't want to impose my knowledge on anyone else. You It's just good for you to know. Maybe at some point it will help you understand someone else that you previously were not able to understand, and this is something else that will help you. I'm going to talk about the scale of consciousness that came from David R. Hawkins. David R. Hawkins was a psychologist or psychiatrist, I'm not sure, um, and which is not as important as the fact that he became enlightened at one part of his life, and from there he got a lot of insight that came on top of his insight that he already have being a psychologist, and I think he was head of a clinic and working with thousands upon thousands of people. So what he found out is kind of what I was talking about here. Like if we say this is like your aware mind, and these are like the child and the parent. So what can happen is that you get your aware part of you stronger and stronger, and it is able to, let's say here, overcome these subconscious conditionings, and then it's going to become bigger and bigger and stronger, and this is actually what Hawkins is talking about with his levels of consciousness. The lowest level starting at this being very weak, and he actually, the levels of consciousness, like your level of consciousness at a time, like, or in the average, is the sum of different levels of consciousness you have throughout your life, or not throughout life, but throughout your daily dealings with people, because there might be, like I was talking about here, different phases you can be in, and each feeling has its own level of consciousness and its own energy it's emanating that has different properties. So I'm gonna talk about this now. So the lowest, like the scale comes from like 0 to 1000, and I'm gonna start with 20. 20 is shame. This is the densest, heaviest energy you can have. This is the energy that is most aggravating for people, but the sweetest for the pain body, sweetest for this one part of you that's what's accumulated. But for you in truth, it is actually very, very heavy. And being ashamed is like you feel miserable, you feel humiliated, you are constantly afraid of being more miserable, more humiliated. And people that are at this level of consciousness really feel trapped at always thinking about what will other people think of them. They're constantly deciding everything upon their own constructed point of view of what other people are gonna think about, probably, if they do X and Epsilon. And they're probably, it's a very fearful level of consciousness. And very near it, on 30, is guilt. So, like, I put them here as one because usually they are treated as one, although Hawkins liked to distinguish them, because, like, feeling guilty, you feel like a victim, you feel like you're being blamed and you blame others. It is like a constant game of blaming yourself and blaming others, what they did to you, what you did to them, feeling guilty, feeling ashamed. It's very near to each other. And very interestingly, those two emotions are lower in this level of consciousness than apathy. Well, apathy is also when you hear apathy, you would think it would be the lowest, because when you're apathic, you feel helpless, you think you can't do anything, you might be depressed, you think nothing makes sense, and it's a very, very heavy energy. But actually, it's above guilt and shame. And even if you are somewhere in this part, it doesn't matter. The good thing about, and sometimes, in this circle, you get here at some part of your day, maybe, or your week or your month, you get here. And that's okay. It's just okay. You should be aware of that and just let it go. And the more you're aware of that, the easier will it become to let it go, and then to move on to the higher levels of consciousness. Because, as I said, usually people are not trapped here all the time, but they oscillate between different emotions. But yeah, it's okay. Everywhere you are, it's okay. Every part of this level of consciousness has its own reason to be there. So, the next one would be grief. As we know, it is a very heavy emotion. Like, if you ever lost someone you loved, you know how grief feels like, or if you lost anything you love, or anything you think you needed. It is sad, sadness, regret, depression. It's I don't think there is much to say about it, except that it can be such a heavy emotions that some people never get out of it. Like, if you lose a child, for example, for some people it is such a dear or dear, no, I don't know if that's the right word, so it's such a heavy loss that they actually come back to grief over and over again in their lives, because it was such a heavy thing that they can't let go of it. So the next thing would be fear, which is, like, of course, worry and anxiety. That is like, we think it's very normal to worry, oh, am I gonna be on time? How I'm gonna be? Am I gonna be able to finish all the tasks? I'm gonna be fast enough? Are people gonna like me? Whatever. This is all the negative energy of fear. Then This is just a second. I notice I opened a level of consciousness on the other side to be able to compare it, not to be able to not be not to be yeah, sorry, not to have to know all of them by heart. But yeah, I just noticed that there is a discrepancy. I thought there was there, but it is not there. Sorry about this. I thought two feelings had different levels, but anyway, I'm gonna continue. So yeah, if you are 125, that would be desire. So yeah, we come back to this. Now we have all of them: desire, fear, guilt, and shame. Well, almost all of them, but all that are in this vicious circle that is continuing. Because actually desire, when you really just want something, it has to come. You are afraid, you are always disappointed because what you desire is not there. And because actually whatever you desire at this level, when you actually get it, you don't actually get any satisfaction from it. You maybe get it, as I was talking about the cake. If you eat the first bite of the cake, it might feel good, but it will come very soon, a second, third, or fourth bite, when you don't enjoy it at all, actually. That you just continue eating it, although it brings you no pleasure at all. So that is the thing. Like, someone that is in this desire level is always feels very often disappointing. It feels craving, and is very often a slave of the desires that come. So yeah, so that's that. And above that, very strangely, that is what irritated me, because I thought it was below desire, but it's actually above desire, is anger. So yeah, this is like, I don't know if people can read it. I'm sorry for my writing that is horrible, but this is anger. Just imagine someone wrote anger very beautifully there. Anger is, of course, the energy of being wronged, of hate, of aggression, of being antagonistic, looking at finding enemies everywhere. It's a very, it's a world where they're out to get you, and you have to, be a warrior and fight them off, and that's also the thing, which is very interesting. Anger is, of course, a very destructive emotion, but if you are at these lower levels, anger can actually help you get over them and actually give you some fuel to jump over the shark that we're coming to right now. So above anger is pride. Pride would be pride comes before the fall, the Bible would say, but it doesn't really matter, because actually pride is also a very heavy emotion, although much less heavy, much less dense than these emotions, especially like the more it gets to the top, the less heavy the emotions are. But when you're prideful, you feel you're better than other people. You feel that you are entitled. You feel demanding. You feel scornful. You are. It is very easy to be stuck at this level, because when you're in this level of consciousness and you have the feeling you are better than others, and you have like an antagonistic view of, I'm here and everyone else is here, it gives you a sense of being important, and the sense of being important might hinder you to get over this level, because above this level comes the, like until now, the all important level, and that is the level of courage. Okay, it's very difficult to write from sitting down, so maybe I'm gonna get up after this or sit differently. Courage is at level 200, and that is the first major step in the scale of consciousness, because when you get to courage, you're actually becoming more permitting in a way. That is the level of knowing to change the things that you can change and accepting the things you cannot change. Because when you're in a sense of pride, in the area of pride, you usually don't want to change some things. You want to have a reason to feel mistreated. You want to have a reason to be angry. You want to have a reason for mistreatment. But when you get to the sense of courage, that's the moment when you, for example, end the relationship or change the relationship that really wasn't good for you, and you knew it wasn't good for you, but you weren't willing to change it. Like, it isn't until when you get to the level of courage that you get the courage to change it, or to change the job you're unhappy with in your life situation or whatever. So this is where life starts changing. It is the level of empowerment. And what is important to know about these levels here, like Hawkins called these the levels of force. Because when you are operated in any of these levels of consciousness, you need force to, it costs you energy. These levels cost you energy. They are very energy consuming. Not only do they cost you energy, but actually they cost energy of everyone else around you. You are kind of pulling on people with this, because when you're feeling ashamed and there is someone else and he notices that you're feeling ashamed, he feels guilty. So you brought the other person at the same time to the same level. Very often, like if we're talking about these levels, if we get to the higher levels, you get free from getting drawn to this lower level. But actually, what happens is, in this part of force, that you are not a net giver of energy, you are a net taker of energy. These lower levels of energy are such that they want to perpetrate misery. Like, you feel kind of miserable on these levels, and not you, but a part of you, this part of you that is functioning on this level, wants other to feel as miserable as you are feeling. And the interesting thing is, like on anthropologically seen, also right now, about 80% of people are, in average, below 200. But on the worldwide scale, humanity got to above 200. And you might ask yourself, if you're into maths, how is this possible? That is possible because all the levels above 200 are net givers of energy. They are people who can, if you are willing, help you go up with your energy. Instead of taking energy, to actually become also a net giver of energy. And and the thing is, like someone that is, I'm gonna get to 500, but someone who is at 500 energy, one person at 500 energy can, like, that's Hawkins' idea, but just to get an idea, someone on 500 energies can level 100,000 people that are at shame energy. You know? Because they can give so much energy, they can give more than 100,000 of people that are locked in that frequency at the moment. So that is also the reason, because the consciousness of humankind has been rising, especially in the 20th century. That's why we are also coming to a different age. Because like this step to 200, I think, happened about, I know, I'm not sure. This is like, I'm trying to quote from a memory, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So this is also like, I think maybe during the anti-war, like maybe in the 60s, could be like 60s, 70s, when the anti-war, the hippies and everything came up, because people were not any longer really willing to take up on untruth and in like this lower energies. So yeah, that is like courage is the first most important step for many people. And like, even if you're above courage, usually you have these parts, and sometimes you fall into these parts, and it's okay, because this is a part of being human. Part of being human is having the pain body, and having the pain body means that you have this circle. And how often you are a victim or maybe a puppet of the pain body depends on how aware you are. And you can train your awareness and get from here to up. So I'm gonna cover what comes after that. Like at 250 would be what does it say? Neutrality. Which would be you're satisfied, you start trusting more, life is not so more up and downs. But my experience is actually that after 200, it doesn't take so much time to get further, because it gets easier. The next important step is willingness. And this is where you actually know, you start being optimistic. You start seeing life in a positive outlook, because you saw what positive things can happen when you get the courage, and you started seeing things more neutrally, and then you get the willingness to get further, and it can really help. Then here comes, or maybe I should use a different color. This is a very important step again, is reason. Reason. This is where like between reason, like 400 and 500 is reason. This is a very big part of the scale, and those are the people who are fortunate that they have a strong awareness, that they have a strong rational mind, and they don't have a very strong irrational part of their mind. So very often geniuses are found there. For example, like Einstein and many other great minds of the past were shortly before 500. So they had a very, very high level of consciousness, but not quite 500. Because, and this is hard to explain maybe, but this part, like from the reason to or below 500 to here is linear. What does that mean? That means this is like the part of consciousness that the rational mind can grasp. It is like linearity is of seeing time and space as we usually see them and not as they actually are. I'm gonna get to that in some future videos, but not here. But that is the most, that is like when you are born in the 400s, for example, you see always a rational solution to every problem. Not always, but mostly you see a rational solution to every problem. And then when you deal with someone from these kind of energies, and you don't know they have their own world that is actually the product of these levels of consciousness, you can't really understand them because you know what is the rational solution to a problem and you don't understand why don't they do it. Why don't they do what is rational? Why are they doing things that are irrational? And that is why it is very important to, like, when you become aware, especially when you come near the 500s, it becomes quite easy to distinguish at which level someone else is when you deal with him or her. And then it is easier to have understanding for them, and you don't have to do much more than that, just to understand that at this moment, at the level that they are on, they don't actually have a choice, or they do have a choice, but they might not know that they do, and it is okay that they're doing what they're doing. It is okay that they're acting the way they're acting. That is the part of the conditioning, part of the level of consciousness they're at that moment. They are not that. They are not the guilt, the shame, the fear. They are not that. They're just at that level at that moment. This same person can at another moment be at another level, and this same person can overcome the level it is on in average. It is possible. So, oh wow, this video is quite long, but I'm gonna rush to, am I? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. 30 minutes is quite enough, but if you're curious, you can continue to the next video, and I'm gonna talk about the levels that come after 500. So thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye bye.